Hospice and palliative care is you choosing the way that you want your final months to be. And in control of those the best you can, surrounded by the people that you love and the place that you want to be.
And greetings, everyone, and welcome to Buzz for Good, where we talk all things nonprofit, the people they serve, and the good they do. And on today's show, nonprofit organizations are often awarded grants for their work contributing to a community's quality of life. But what about quality of death? Today we are going to feature Good Samaritan Hospice, which is based in the Roanoke and New River Valleys of Virginia, and most recently received the largest grant ever awarded by the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia, $500,000 for the first hospice house in our region. We're going to have a conversation with Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, about what is hospice, what is a hospice house, and what is the difference that this grant is going to make serving our region. We're also going to share a little bit of our most recent Buzz TV show that aired this past Wednesday night, July 26th on Blue Ridge PBS. That episode starred the Community Foundation of the New River Valley, and it was an exciting show. We had a watch party at the Moss Art Center at Virginia Tech. It's now available on our YouTube channel at Buzz for Good, BUZZ4 Good. Before we get to that, though, my name is Michael Hemphill. I'm the creator and host of the Blue Ridge PBS TV show Buzz that airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Each episode, we feature a nonprofit and the great work that it does in our community, and we partner the nonprofit with a team of marketing professionals affiliated with the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke, who donate their time and talent helping the nonprofit achieve more buzz. And for our most recent episode starring the Community Foundation of the New River Valley, we had the good fortune of bringing back to Buzz for the 7th time Bruce C. Bryan, owner of 5 Points Creative. And what a marvelous job he and 5 Points Creative did, helping the Community Foundation of the New River Valley achieve a whole lot of buzz for its most recent and 10th annual Give Local NRV. So we'll share that in a little bit after our conversation again with Aaron Housch of Good Samaritan Hospice. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the Roanoke Cultural Endowment, which working to provide a long-term funding solution for arts and cultural organizations in the city of Roanoke, roanokeculturalendowment.org, as well as Partners in Financial Planning, a Southwest Virginia-based financial management firm, partnersinfinancialplanning.com, and our newest sponsor, Friendship Living. They can be found at friendship.us, and we will feature a conversation with its CEO next week about Friendship's recent acquirement of Richfield Living in Salem. So tune in next week for that episode. If you would, please stay connected with us throughout the week on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and now Threads, all at Buzz for Good. Please go to our website, buzzforgood.com, where you can watch all 34 of our TV shows to date, as well as listen to previous podcasts featuring other nonprofit organizations in our region. And that's at buzzforgood.com. And now, here is my conversation with Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice. Again, the recent recipient of the largest grant ever awarded by the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia, $500,000 towards the first hospice house in the region. This hospice house is a $5 million goal, and the Community Foundation's grant brings Good Sam to $2.6 million. Earlier this month, on the same day that the award was announced by the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia, Good Sam also poured the slab on its site that will eventually house the hospice house. That site is a 6-acre piece of property on Cove Road in Roanoke. And once completed, projected date is August of 2024, it will have 16 different patient rooms to provide inpatient care for people who are undergoing hospice. But Good Sam Hospice is a whole lot more than just the hospice house that it is currently building, the Center for Caring. And here's my conversation with Aaron Housch. All right, and it is my pleasure to welcome to Buzz for Good Aaron Housch, who is the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so of course we want to talk about the recent $500,000 grant that Good Samaritan received from the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia. But before that, I'd just like to kind of take a step back and ask you, starting off, why does our country need nonprofits in order to die?
Well, I have this belief, and my entire career, more than 20 years, has been working in community-based nonprofit hospice. And I believe very strongly that, the very premise of how nonprofit hospices are set up, particularly those that are community-based, that are owned by the community, really just the focus of care is in the right place. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about nonprofit hospices, as opposed to for-profit, which now outnumber the total number of nonprofits across the country, it's just really where is the heart of the work we're doing in the care. And for us, it's not in the profit, it's in the care. And so we're not trying to please the stockholder. We're not trying to do all of those things. We're trying to make sure that the end-of-life care experience is the best that it possibly can be for a patient and a family. And that is our focus. That will always be our focus. And I think nonprofit hospice, community-based nonprofit hospice, serves that mission the best.
Well said. I guess maybe more I was asking, why are we now in a place where we need hospices, versus 50 years ago, I don't think these even existed.
Yeah, I think, if you go back 50 years ago, the movement of hospice as a movement across the country, there really wasn't hospice as we know it today.
Yeah, I'm asking, because my mother talks about, her grandmother moving in with them when she was a little girl and moving in and eventually dying there. Her parents both died at home, and now we're kind of in a place where, has it become more specialized, or is this just say something else about the, maybe the changing dynamics of families?
So let me first say that, hospice in this country, the vast majority of hospice is all hospice care at home, and so it's really support for the family to be able to provide that care at home. And that will always be our focus as well. Okay. But if the hospice movement really just started a little over 40 years ago. If you thought the late 1970s, early 1980s, that's really when hospice began across this country. It was 100% community-based nonprofit. And I think what we were seeing and what people were seeing at the time is, although we had medicine, although we had medical care in hospitals and patients were, still dying at home, people needed support in order to do that, not only for pain and symptom management, but just hands-on support for care, someone to teach them, someone to be able to get orders and medications in the home and all those kind of things. And so if you really look at when hospice began, there's a lady that's sort of known as the present-day founder of the hospice movement, a lady named Cicely Saunders. She was from the United Kingdom, started the first hospice in London. And she was actually working in the hospital as a social worker, went back to school to become a nurse and eventually a physician. And what she found is that although people were dying in those places, that didn't necessarily mean they were dying well. They weren't always dying comfortable. Their physical elements were often treated, but their emotional and spiritual, not so much. And so hospice as a movement really began to say, we need a holistic approach to support people at the end of life. And at hospice, we don't look at the patient as a single unit. Who we are serving is the patient and the family. We're there to support the patient and the family during this journey and help to do that the best that it can. Most of the time for us, that does happen in a patient's home. That could be, or a place that they call home. So we do offer care in partnership with facilities across the Roanoke and New River valleys. And that's the majority of our care. However, home hospice care doesn't meet the needs of every situation.
Mhm.
And so that's why we've been talking about the need for a hospice house. This isn't, this is a 16-bed hospice facility that we're in the campaign for. But most of that is to ensure that no matter what the needs of someone are at the end of life, we're able to meet those. There's occasions where we, admit someone at home and they've been at home for, extended period of time, 3 or 4 months. And as their disease progresses, they start to decline and they start to have symptoms that we have a really hard time managing, and they really need around-the-clock management in another setting. For example, right now, if that occurs, we have partnerships with hospitals and we can send those patients to the hospital. But the facility, for example, that we're trying to build allows us to really have what I like to call a hospice hospital. And that way, if a patient's needs exceed what can be done at the home, or maybe the family's exhausted and needs a break, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can send them to this facility where they get care in a home-like facility surrounded by hospice-trained clinicians, with the goal many times of returning home. Because home is always sort of the heart of hospice and what we want to do. But going back to your point, I got a little sidetracked. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to your Center for Caring here in a moment, which was the subject of the grant. But please continue.
But hospice as a specialty, when you talk about the late 1970s when hospice began across the United States and early 1980s, hospice was not even recognized as a medical specialty. Today, access to hospice is the highest it's ever been, and we are now seen as a medical specialty. So physicians can actually train in hospice and palliative medicine and go through a fellowship just like they would for any other specialty. So I think that the need for a specialized kind of care was very needed in order, that's not to say that every person dies the same, but there's a lot of similarities in our response and our ability to meet those needs is now seen, I think, in the medical world as an important part of the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, once again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Aaron Housch, who's the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, which was the recent recipient of the largest grant ever from the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia, $500,000, which will be used towards its campaign to build a center for caring, a 16-room facility that will basically be there to provide hospice care, I guess, in-house for people who are at end of life. I did a Roanoke Times search just to find out more about Good Samaritan Hospice, and I found 10 obituaries just in July, just in this month, of people who had been served by Good Samaritan before passing away. And I got me wondering, how many people do you actually help die each year?
So we care in our hospice program for more than 1,200 patients a year.
Wow.
At any given time, we have about 250 patients on our census today. I think we have 265 patients on our census.
And your service area is what?
So we have a fairly large service area. We serve the Roanoke and New River Valley. So we have an office in Roanoke. We also have an office in Christiansburg. We serve 9 counties fully, but we also we actually serve patients about 50 miles from each of our office locations. And so sometimes that crosses into other counties, but we certainly serve, Roanoke, Franklin, Bedford, Botetourt, Craig, of course, the cities of Salem and Roanoke, Montgomery, Pulaski, Radford, Giles. And then we also serve areas, sort of extended. We go into Wythe County, we get into Henry County. We serve sort of the surrounding counties. So we really say we like to go about 50 miles or an hour from one of them.
Okay.
That's really just to ensure that after hours we can respond to people in the appropriate time if they need us in the night. And so we serve portions of 14 counties across Southwest Virginia.
Wow. So 250 people at a time right now are being served by Good Samaritan.
Yes, that is correct. And we're also offering a community-based palliative care program currently. We have about 170 patients in that program. And we also have a partnership with Louisville Hospital where we're every other week we do inpatient palliative consults inside the hospital.
Okay. So right now it's primarily in the patient's home or in the family's home. But your goal is to create this center for caring. So tell us about what that is going to look like, where it is, and when you hope it'll be open.
Yeah. So when we were founded more than 30 years ago, um, a part of our original strategic plan was that Good Samaritan would one day have and open a hospice house. So it's been a part of the vision for hospice and Good Samaritan Hospice since 1992 when we opened. And, over the course of time, as our census has grown and other things have occurred, we've been able to sort of dream a little bit bigger. And so a couple of years ago, back in 2019, we decided we really wanted to look into the feasibility of opening a hospice house and what that would look like. And could we occupy a hospice house and keep the beds full and all the things that come with that? So we started to put that a part of our strategic plan, did studies that helped us to understand that better and all of those things. And then really in 2020, really started kicking off potentially looking for some land that eventually, is leading to our capital campaign that we're talking about today. But we did back in that time, we purchased some land. So we have 6 acres of land off of Cove Road. So I think it's 4751 Cove Road, which is really over close to the Peters Creek Cove intersection in Roanoke, very accessible to 581 and 81 and all the counties that we serve. If you're familiar with Roanoke, it's right across the street from the St. Elias Maronite Catholic Church, where they have the Lebanese Festival.
Okay.
So 6 acres of land there. We were able to get that rezoned through the city. It's actually in the city of Roanoke. We got that rezoned and then officially purchased that land at the end of 2021.
Okay.
And so then we, about that time, we decided we really wanted to move forward with this project. It was a tough time to make that decision in the middle of COVID and all the uncertainty that brought, not just in healthcare, but particularly in home health and how that would work out. So we decided to sort of take a leap of faith and really kick off a capital campaign and start that conversation. Early on into that process, we had a local donor who stepped forward and really made the lead gift for our capital campaign and committed $1 million to this project.
Wow.
A guy across the valley that has supported many great causes, a man named Mari Strauss, and the Strauss family has really embraced this project and helped us to move that forward. And so that really kicked off our capital campaign. Our goal in that capital campaign was to raise $5 million.
Okay.
And so the Community Foundation gift actually took us to $2.6 million. So we were at 2.1 million. So it actually took us past the halfway mark in that capital. So super excited about that and really honored and humbled that the Community Foundation, that Good Sam was the recipient of the single largest gift in the foundation's history. And we're just honored and humbled by that support. The Community Foundation has been a very large supporter and proponent of Good Samaritan Hospice since our inception. Mm-hmm. But to make that kind of gift is just phenomenal. I think it says a couple of things. I think it says something very important about the need for this kind of facility in the Roanoke Valley. But I think it also says something about their faith in Good Samaritan Hospice as an organization and our ability to do this. So really excited about that. The day that we announced that gift just a couple of weeks ago was also the day that we are pouring the slab and the foundation for our inpatient unit over on Cove Road. So we have begun construction and are in the phase of that. Our goal is to be in the building in 2024. Now, the Center for Caring will actually house 2 components. It will actually house our home care program on one side, and then the other side of the facility will be the 16-bed hospice inpatient facility. So our hope is that in January, we'll be able to move our hospice administrative program over to that building. And we'll continue the fundraising. We really want to make it to that $5 million mark to ensure that that we're able to fund the program and it not be a burden long term to the organization. And then hopefully by August the 1st of next year, we will open our doors and accept the first patient at the Southwest Virginia's first ever freestanding hospice inpatient facility.
Outstanding. Well, again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Aaron Housch, who's the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, the recent recipient of the Community Foundation Serving Western Virginia, their largest grant ever of $500,000, which will go towards the $5 million capital campaign for Good Samaritan to build the Center for Caring inpatient hospice center in Roanoke. How does it work as far as the funding wise? How does someone receive hospice care?
So, so hospice care is funded by Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance.
Okay.
So we are Medicare. We were actually the first Medicare certified hospice in the Roanoke Valley. And so once you're Medicare certified, you can bill Medicare. We're primarily funded through Medicare. About 90% of our funding comes through Medicare. The rest through private insurance, Medicaid, and then through donations. So without going into great detail on how we're funded, we're actually funded in a per diem rate. So we get a per diem rate for all the care that we provide, which includes durable medical equipment, medications, all of our staff, nurses, social workers, chaplain, physician, everybody that's on our team that's seeing the patient and coordinating that care. Everything is given to us in that per diem rate. So as you may well know, sometimes that covers all the cost and sometimes it doesn't. And one of the reasons why we do the fundraising is help to cover the cost when it doesn't. You know, you may admit a patient on service that has high cost medication. We don't get to bill that medication separately. We get one fee that covers everything. If it doesn't cover it, then our expense exceeds what we get in revenue. And so that's why we do the fundraising, to help ensure that we're always able to provide that care regardless of ability to pay. So regardless of someone's ability to pay or access to insurance, Good Sam will serve those patients regardless of ability to
pay. Okay. So that kind of explains how all this is funded. But for those who have never experienced hospice before listening in, can you share like a step-by-step how it works, from the time that someone perhaps finds themselves or a family finds a loved one in need of hospice care to end of life?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when someone finds themselves in need and they identify that, anyone can make a referral to hospice. Anyone. It doesn't have to be a physician. It can be a family member. It can be a patient. It can be a friend. And it's really simple. All you have to do is give us a call. You can call us and just say, hey, I'd like to make a referral to hospice. At that point, then we sort of take over from there, and we will work with the patient's physicians, whatever those may be. I mean, sometimes that is a primary care physician. Sometimes it's a specialist like an oncologist, to gather information. We have our own medical director, full-time medical director that works for us. And we'll gather all that information and then do a consult with the family. Number one, to explain hospice and let them understand the kind of care and services that we provide. And ultimately, the decision is the patient and family always. But if a patient meets eligibility, eligibility really means that the patient has to have an advanced illness, and an illness that would be somewhat life-limiting in nature, right? And so by Medicare...
Is that typically, sorry to interrupt, but how prominent is cancer as one of the illnesses that you would see, or are there, what other illnesses are typically find, you helping?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently about 26% of our patients have cancer. Okay. A lot of people think that the majority of hospice patients would have cancer, right? Yeah. That's a common misconception, but it's not true. About 26% of our patients. But we have patients with all kinds of other issues, patients with advanced and end-stage Alzheimer's, dementia, pulmonary disease, COPD, heart disease, dementia. I mean, there's all kinds of issues that would be considered life limiting. In the eyes of Medicare, Medicare says that in order for a patient to be eligible for hospice, they have to be certified by a physician that they have 6 months or less to live if the disease takes its normal course.
Okay.
And so we have our physician, and they work with the local physicians and other physicians to certify those patients in to our care. Um, and currently, so someone would sign up for hospice. They would be deemed eligible by our physician, and then we really at that point take over the coordination of care for that patient. And like I said, if a patient is at home and needs a hospital bed, then we take care of that. If they need oxygen, we get that ordered in place. If they need medications, we are providing those medications. We are writing for those medications and that kind of. Many of the patients that come on our service are needing some symptom management, so we're quickly taking care of those symptoms through a nurse assessment with our physician to get the right things in place. Now, a patient can be on hospice. Many people have the understand or think that a patient comes under hospice care that they have a very short time to live, and that's not necessarily true. The average length of stay for a patient at Good Samaritan Hospice is about 70 days. Across the nation, it's anywhere between 80 to 96 days. And so there is a large misconception that people are on hospice for a short period of time. While we do have patients on our service for a very short period of time, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, we also have patients on our service for much longer. And we always say the benefit of hospice is so much better when someone comes early. We're able to build that relationship with the family. Many times people, as their disease progresses, they find themselves in and out of the hospital, back and forth to doctors' offices. We're able to do all of that really in the comfort of someone's home. So they no longer have to run to the physician's office. We can call the physician, get what they need, get the things ordered, and then monitor that in the home. And so our entire team then takes over the care of that patient. Every patient has a nurse that's really assigned to them, home health aide that can do personal care multiple times a week. We have a chaplain and spiritual care coordinators that are visiting the patients, and also social workers. We also have a large number of volunteers that just help support all of the patients throughout our service area. Maybe that is a family member wants to go to church on Sunday, and so we may find a volunteer to go and sit with that patient while the caregivers are out of the home. Or maybe we have a patient that lives alone and just wants some companionship, and so we'll have volunteers and our staff spend time with them just to offer companionship. So and so a patient, over the course of time, they stay a part of our care, and depending on the needs that they have, depends on how often our team is there and the kind of services that they're getting. We also offer extra services. For example, we have integrative therapies that we offer to our patients and their families, which include massage therapy. We have pet therapy. We do music therapy. So we have a wide variety when someone comes onto hospice of the kind of care. And it's really individualized to what the patient and family want and need. Some patients a lot of services, some want less. And I say that in that, sometimes we have it's an unfortunate time in people's life often when they're reaching hospice, because, they're faced with a life-limiting illness that eventually comes to an end, right? And that's a hard time. It's a hard adjustment. But, we may admit a patient on our service today that has been ill and say unresponsive for the last 2 or 3 years. We also may admit a patient today on our service that literally found out today that they have stage 4 lung cancer, and there's nothing else that can be done. Mm-hmm. And they are still working in the primary breadwinner for their family. Wow. 2 very different patients, right? 2 very different scenarios. And we really mold the care based upon the need of the patient. Mm-hmm. Support we need to offer to that patient and that family.
Yeah. Again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Aaron Housch, the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, which recently received a $500,000 grant from the Community Foundation serving Western Virginia to build the first ever for Western Virginia Center for Caring, an inpatient hospice care center. Share for those who may not know, like, what would be the advantages both for the patient and for the family of having a center for caring rather than just providing your services in the patient or family's home?
So I think that, more than anything, I think it just allows for an additional resource for us to meet the needs of a patient and family.
Mm.
I don't think that it replaces on some level what we're currently doing. It just allows us to have an additional resource, additional tool in our toolbox, right? Depending on the patient and family need. And like I said, sometimes that means pain and symptom management. A big focus in this facility will be pain and symptom management. If somebody gets in a pain crisis at home, or somebody's having some kind of symptom that we can't control, nausea, vomiting, those kind of things. And we tried everything that we can. And then we can seamlessly transfer them from the place that they're at into this facility. If we send someone, to the hospital, they need an acute care admission, much of that time is admission through the ER. Going through the ER is a wonderful place, providing an important service, but it's a difficult thing for a patient to go through, particularly as they're declining. And so we can seamlessly take them to this facility. It's designed to be as home-like as possible. It will look, smell, and is designed really from the ground up to feel like home. So we really want it to be a home away from home.
Yeah.
And so it's really that extra toolkit. And like I said, many people across this valley are caregivers for their loved ones with advanced illness. That is a tough job. Probably one of the toughest jobs in the world is caregiving for someone 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so this will allow us to also give those patients and families a break. Really, we say up to 5 days that their loved one can come to the facility, get hospice specific care by trained hospice professionals. We'll have a hospice physician there. And their family can really just get that break. But maybe a family member needs their own surgical procedure, and this will give them a safe place for the patient to come. And sometimes needs just exceed what can be done in the home. Say a patient is having some symptoms and they really need titration of medication around the clock. That's really difficult. It's difficult for a family, untrained people that are not trained in medical care, and we're able to take those patients here. Many patients will transfer from the hospital to this facility. Many of those patients will be at the end of life, and this will, for whatever reason, they're unable to go home. And this will allow a place for those people to go and be in a really quiet, peaceful atmosphere that really is focused, like I said, and specialized in hospice and palliative medicine.
Well, I imagine with the advancements that have been made in medical care, it's not just, tending to the physical needs of the patient, but there's probably IVs and monitors and all sorts of, medications going through the IVs and a host of other really kind of technologically advanced medical devices that, the common layperson is really going to feel anxious about having to navigate.
Right. And that is a great point. And one of the things that we'll be able to do is we'll also be able to transition people from home to hospital. Oftentimes people come out of a hospital, they get home, they feel somewhat unprepared for the care.
Yeah.
At no fault of anyone. It's just a difficult thing to do. We'll be able to transition some of those patients and help do the training at our facility and make sure that people feel comfortable before sending those patients home. It really just allows us to meet our patients and families' need at a higher level, and in an environment, in a place that is consistent with the mission of hospice. Hospitals do a phenomenal job with the work that they do. They are large partners for us, but the kind of care that we do is specialized. If we can create the environment ourselves, it just really allows, I think, for more specialized care, and for us, better outcomes in the long term for patients that are approaching the end of life.
Wonderfully put. For those who are interested in learning more, not only about supporting your Center for Caring, supporting Good Samaritan Hospice in general, perhaps even serving as a volunteer or some other need, where would they go?
Yeah, the best place to go is to our website. Our website is www.goodsam.care. That'll take you directly to our website. It's a host of great information there. You could also just give us a call. If you want to call us, you can look on our website, get our number, but it's 540-776-0198. We have a wonderful team of people that just really care about helping people. I always tell people one of the big services that we offer to this community is grief and bereavement support. Mm-hmm. It's an important part of our mission. We offer that to our patients and families post-death, but we also offer that to the community at large. And if someone's struggling and needs help, needs someone to talk to, we always have our grief and bereavement counselors available to help support people, not just loved ones of our hospice patients, but also the community. Goodsam.care is the best way to find that. We also have all the information about the Center for Caring there. We also have a great video that really tells the story on our homepage. So if you scroll down to the homepage, you can watch that video that tells the story of why this need is so important here in the Roanoke Valley and why we've been moved to fulfill that by building this Center for Caring.
Well, as we approach the end of our conversation here, again, Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, joining me today on Buzz for Good, talking about stories. How did you get into hospice care?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually, when I went to college, and I had a whole nother plan for my life, which is sort of how that goes. And I graduated from college. When I graduated from college, I went to a college in Kentucky, Berea College, wonderful institution. But when I graduated, my wife was actually had a year left of nursing school. She was finishing her nursing degree, her BS in there. And so I knew that my next step for me was to go to graduate school. But in the meantime, I needed to have a job. We had just had a child. And so I opened the newspaper. Yes, it was in the time we still looked in the newspaper for job postings. And the very first job posting was for a director of volunteer services at the local nonprofit hospice there. And I had been coordinating some volunteer programs at the college while I was there. And I thought this was just the perfect fit. And so I applied for the job, interviewed that same week, and offered me the job the same day. And that was 20 years or greater than 20 years ago. And I really say, I always really wanted to do nonprofit work. And then, I sort of met hospice, learned about hospice, and really became passionate about it and fell in love with the mission. And that decision has really directed the rest of my life to working in hospice and community-based hospice, and ensuring that not only do people live their life well, right, but they also die well. And it's a wonderful mission, something that I'm really proud to be a part of, and it's very fulfilling. And that's the short story of how I made my way to community-based nonprofit hospice.
So it's really been your life's work.
It has been my entire life's work. Post-college, working in community-based nonprofit hospice is the only job that I've had.
Yeah. One more time, joined here on Buzz for Good by Aaron Housch, the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, and more information at goodsam.care, goodsam.care. You mentioned earlier in our conversation about how Good Sam welcomes volunteers to support your mission. How does the volunteer piece work with Good Sam?
Yeah, so volunteers have always really been the heart of hospice. And I say that because in our founding back in the 1970s and 80s, we were 100% volunteer organization. So it's a very important part of the hospice the hospice care and the hospice benefits. So we use volunteers in a variety of ways. Volunteers support us administratively. We also have patient care volunteers. We have volunteers that help us with fundraising and events and grief and bereavement sessions. Truly, no matter what a role that you potentially would want to do, we can find a place for you in the care that we provide. We always are in need of patient care volunteers, but the best way is just to give us a call, talk to our volunteer coordinators. We have a volunteer director, volunteer coordinator. They'd be happy to talk to anyone about the kind of opportunities that we have here. And most every person can give in some way, and we can make use of that person in some way. And so we love volunteers. We love to bring them in. And then when someone says, yeah, I'd love to be a volunteer, so they just go through an application process. And then we also have a volunteer training and orientation. So every volunteer that is here goes through a very similar process to be an employee, background checks and all the things that are important to ensure safe care of our patients. But they also go through an orientation and a training process. And then eventually, if they want to be patient care volunteers, are matched with patient care, with patients and families and there to serve them. Or they can come in the office. We have a great group of people that come into our office every other week and make blankets. So they make blankets for patients that we admit that are veterans. So we have blankets that are Army, Navy, all the different branches. And so if we admit a patient that was a veteran, we also give them a gift of a blanket that's handmade by our volunteers. So there's just so many things that volunteers can do to help add to the service that we provide.
And I would imagine of all the volunteer opportunities that exist in the nonprofit world, helping someone die has got to be among the most impactful and momentous.
Yeah, I mean, I always say for someone to allow you into their home and their life at the end, it's just a privilege. It's an honor. It's a sacred time. And I mean, if you think about those people and people that have experienced in the life, that's a private time in people's life. It's a sacred time. And for us to be allowed into that, to be able to be a part of it, to be able to have some role in that, it's just an honor and a privilege. And so as a volunteer, to be a part of that, I think it's some of the most meaningful work. Many people would tell you, gosh, I don't want to, volunteer for hospice. That seems so sad. I mean, that's a common thing. I think if you ask any of our volunteers, they would tell you, I don't find it sad at all. I find it very fulfilling. I found it very fulfilling, and I really feel like that I'm making a difference.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, I want to conclude with this because the question being, end of life is obviously something that we try not to talk about a lot. It's scary. It's filled with anxiety, for us to, in kind of a healthier years. And I'm wondering, what do you want people who are maybe listening in today to know about end of life, and to what steps they need to be thinking about right now to prepare for end of life?
Yeah. So I think when we talk about end of life, I always tell people the choice is not whether or not you're going to face the end of life.
Right.
We're all going to face the end of life. The question is, what choices do we have, and how do we, in how we get there?
Yeah.
And so when you're faced with a life-limiting illness, that can be a pretty devastating diagnosis, or you start, for you or your family member. And I just encourage people to talk about it. Talk about it before it becomes an issue. One of the things that I've learned, and, I'm still at an age where, I don't really, I work in this environment, but I don't think always about, my own death. I'm a fairly healthy person. But talk about that with your family. Be open and honest about what you want, about who really needs to make your decisions. Oftentimes the saddest situations that we find ourselves in are when people find themselves abruptly in this situation and no one has any idea what the patient wants. That's a tough situation. Yeah. It's tough on the family because it burdens the family talking about it, when you're young, before the crisis comes up, talking about it with your parents, with your siblings, with your spouse, with your children, is just so important, because there are choices along the way. And I think it's important for people to know how, this is easier said than done in our minds, but hospice is not a scary thing. Hospice and palliative care is you choosing the way that you want your final months to be. And in control of those the best you can, surrounded by the people that you love in the place that you want to be. And so it is a scary thing, but I encourage people to talk about it. I encourage people to talk about advanced directives, and getting, living wills and medical power of attorneys and all those things in place. And it opens up conversation so that when you're faced with those things, those conversations become a little easier. But when someone has to make those decisions for you, if it comes to that, there's also a piece that comes with that, because they know what you want.
Thank you. Well,
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Samaritan Hospice, thank you so much for, I guess, not only contributing to the quality of life in Southwest Virginia, but the quality of death that we will all inevitably face. And so thank you for your work, and I wish you all the best with the continuation and completion of your $5 million capital campaign to build the Center for Caring here in the Roanoke Valley that will better serve people who find themselves facing end of life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael, so much for your time and helping us to spread the work about this good work.
Again, many thanks to Aaron Housch, CEO of Good Sam Hospice, for giving me such wonderful time and thought-provoking time talking about hospice in our region. And again, last week on Blue Ridge PBS, we aired our 34th episode of our TV show Buzz, starring the Community Foundation of the New River Valley. And here are some audio snippets from that episode. I hope it inspires you to want to go to our YouTube channel at Buzz for Good and watch the entire episode, which was a wonderful, uplifting event featuring all 115 different nonprofit organizations in the New River Valley and serving the New River Valley that participated in its most recent 10th annual Give Local NRV. 20 years ago, this was just an abandoned nursing home. And I was just a guy new to nonprofits who had joined other volunteers hoping to revitalize it. We had little money and no experience. But despite all that, one organization believed in us and awarded us a grant to gather local folks to find out what they wanted in the building. Today, more than $2.5 million later, the Meadowbrook Center in Shawsville, Virginia is home to a library, a wellness facility, a history museum, community room and kitchen, art gallery and office space, and all the opportunities those places provide. On today's episode of Buzz, we get to feature the organization that helped inspire all of this, the Community Foundation of the New River Valley. And we get to provide some buzz for the Foundation's biggest day of the year, when it seeks to replicate the success that we've had in our organization with more than 100 different nonprofits throughout Southwest Virginia.
So the Community Foundation started with $8 in the bank. Most community foundations will start with a large single gift. That was not the case here in the New River Valley. We were just a group of people pooling money together, $8 to start. Today our assets are close to $15 million. We had one fund that started in 1997. Today we have well over 200 different funds. And each year we give out about $500,000 in grants and scholarships. Since we started doing that in 1997, we've given out over $8 million in the community. Donors come to the Community Foundation because we make it easy to give. We always talk about focusing on the joy of giving. You want to give to things where you can see the impact of that money both now and for generations to come. But trying to set up your own foundation or to do all the legwork to evaluate a nonprofit, that's a lot of work and sometimes can be quite expensive. So the Community Foundation provides a great alternative. Folks come to us, we deal with all of the financial management, all the accounting, and all the vetting of the nonprofits we grant to, so that the donors can just enjoy the process of giving and see how their money is benefiting the community. It's just amazing to hear those kinds of stories where it's as much about the money we're giving out as about the vote of confidence that we're giving to each student who comes to us for a scholarship or each nonprofit that's seeking a grant.
A desire to leave a lasting legacy for a beloved one often leads families to establish funds with the Community Foundation, says local banker Jim McAllister.
My family, we decided that after watching how effective the Community Foundation is in administering funds and distributing funds, we decided there would be no better place for us to leave a legacy here in the New River Valley. My mother was a public health nurse in Wythe County for 30 years, and my wife Sue, her mother had a special desire and focus around a food bank at their church. So we established the McAllister Family Fund for Healthcare and Nutrition. The fund has, since its establishment in 2020, made a distribution each year. And, our goal is to move it way on up so that it, into perpetuity will provide that type of support for our community.
But that passion, that purpose, often comes from a place of deep pain. On Valentine's Day, 1999, Vincent Wong's mother, June, a beloved teacher at Blacksburg High School, died.
Compose myself here. So, unfortunately, she literally passed away while teaching. In the middle of a class. And I think the impact obviously was unspeakable, in fact, and we were unable to cope with that for many, many years. And so luckily we had the strength and support of the community, friends and family, students of hers, just students within Blacksburg High School, her colleagues were really, really essential for us to lean upon them during that time. The scholarship fund is certainly helpful. At minimum, on an annual basis, we get to recognize outstanding students who have very promising career paths, but also are just excellent citizens, I think, fundamentally. And the part of the reason why her legacy has been able to be sustained for so long, we are here 25 years later for the scholarship, is through the strong support of the Community Foundation of the NRV. So we transferred the fund over from Blacksburg High School to the Community Foundation in 2014. And so that's been really key to not just sustaining, but growing the fund and increasing the fund's visibility. I think that's a really important aspect of this partnership with the Community Foundation.
Yes, so my name is Mercia Camus. I'm a recent senior graduate from Blacksburg High School. Yes, so I plan to attend the University of Pittsburgh, and I will be majoring in neuroscience and minoring in chemistry and Spanish. I know that Blacksburg is labeled as one of those communities and towns that has a very severe lack of medical professionals in almost every area in the field. So I hope that after I finish my education and finish my MD and my PhD, I hope to come back to Blacksburg and start my own practice and work towards building a bridge between the lack of medical care and what I can provide. I'm really thankful for the opportunities given by the Wang family and also by Community Foundation, just for the scholarship and being able to move forward in my education. So
it's our pleasure.
Thank you.
In addition to the grants we give to nonprofits and the scholarships to students, we also support major collaborative initiatives trying to address challenges that no one agency can address alone. So this includes a group called First Steps, which focuses on early childhood education and development. Another called NRV Thrive that focuses on food assistance and getting fresh foods to people in need throughout the region. And we have a larger project called Healthy Roots NRV, which takes the work that we've done in First Steps and Thrive and looks at how we can create a broader network focused on health and well-being in the community.
Another Community Foundation initiative that touches more nonprofits than any other is Give Local NRV.
So Give Local NRV is our annual giving day, and it engages nonprofits across the New River Valley in fundraising for their missions and raising awareness about the really important work that they do. We've been running this event for 10 years now. This will be our 10th year, and it's pretty extraordinary how far we've come. We raised just about $40,000 in 2014, and in the past couple of years, we've raised over $500,000 each year. So we're hoping to do that again this year. So for this year, we're really excited to see what we can do with the 10th anniversary. And we feel like we're in pretty good shape marketing-wise with what we have going on there. But I think our biggest challenge is getting the word out about the event. So any kind of publicity support we can receive or advice would be really helpful. Local media is so busy, and trying to get on their radar would be really exciting because it's such a huge event that is in all areas of the New River Valley. And any cause that you might support, we probably have it on this Giving Day. So it's an event that I think everyone can get behind, and we're just excited to see what happens this year.
How much sleep did you get last night?
I didn't sleep at all last night.
And right now, with 40 minutes to go, you're at 771.
Yeah.
Springhouse beat their goal by $715.
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. I think we're gonna get to 800.
Add it.
Coming in hot with the last minute donation.
Laura? Jess. Man, somebody just dropped in a $47,000 check for all come-ons.
Oh, holy crap.
Oh my God. Good luck with your interview.
Thank you. I understand you guys are going to be watching it, so I hope I represent y'all well. But
You will.
if not, hey, it's over. So
Yes.
all right.
Oh, she's slow, and confirmed.
Wow! $374,000 over our goal.
I mean, that's
We did it, you guys. We did it. We did it. We did it, babe.
That's not the right
Do
total.
it again.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Refresh.
Wow!
What?
Wow.
What?
Whoa! What happened?
Wow.
Whoa! Big money!
I think that's more than 500,000. Can anyone do the math on that?
That is more than 500,000.
What? Oh my God!
Wow.
I can't believe Jess is in Roanoke for this. I'm happy she's there, but I wish she was here right now.
Yes.
What?
All right, well, let's watch her.
How does it feel? It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Our original goal was $500,000. We hit that goal within a few hours of starting the meeting yesterday. But to see it grow to this level, it's beyond any of us anticipated. It feels amazing. I mean, my team at the Community Foundation, I understand they're watching us right now. It was so exciting to see individual organizations really come out of nowhere and raise a lot of money. I don't think any of us anticipated that it was going to be this far over the goal for this year, or that in the past 10 years we've raised well over $3 million for nonprofits. It's huge, and we're just so proud to be a part of it.
Oh man, I wish Jess was here. I don't know how she's gonna drive back after. Oh, here she is. Oh! Jess?
Yeah.
Did you check?
Oh my God.
Did you check the website? It's not 800. It's 921,000.
Check this out! Check it out!
Can you see that?
Holy cow.
Right?
I just checked it, and it was like 825, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
Right?
So did Michael like film that ending and all that stuff?
Yeah, Michael's filming right now.
You're being filmed again, sort of.
I mean, I'm willing to be filmed as much as needed if we're going to raise $950,000. I could not be more grateful for the people who are in that room right now for the incredible work that our whole team did to make this happen. And then, of course, to every single one of those 115 nonprofits that use the platform to talk about the amazing work that they do. I mean, I'm floored at what's possible in the New River Valley and all the donors, the sponsors. Like, talk about a community effort. This is it, and just the chance to be a part of it. I never thought when we started in 2014, it was going to be like this.
Me
I'm
either.
amazed and just feeling super grateful for everyone involved.
And that'll do it for today's Buzz for Good. Thank you for tuning in. Again, please stay connected with us throughout the week on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and Threads, all at Buzz for Good. Or connect with us through our website, buzzforgood.com. Until we see you next time, please continue being a Buzz for Good in your community. Bye now.